Welcome back to this course. So this is the first video of our next section in which we learn about behind the scenes of Node.js. Okay, so I am not going to bore you too much with the theory content, but it is important for you to learn this before we actually get into the coding part. Okay, so watch this complete section. Believe me, this will be really helpful for you. Okay, so today in this video we are going to discuss about Node.js dependencies. Okay, so Node.js also depend upon something. So let's see what those on which Node.js is depend upon. First of all, there are two most important dependencies of Node.js. The first one is Google Chrome's V8 engine. So we have already discussed about this V8 engine. Now the new thing about in this slide is that Google Chrome's V8 engine is actually built in C++. So you may expect that V8 engine is made in JavaScript, but this is wrong. Actually, this is built in C++. And the next dependency is the libuv, which is the C++ library that is definitely written in C++. Okay, so libuv library is one of the most important dependency of Node.js, and this is also written in C++. So what actually is present in libuv library? So let's see. First of all, libuv is a multi-platform support library which focus on asynchronous I/O. It was developed for use by Node.js. Okay, so we know that Node.js also focus on the asynchronous I/O, and libuv also focus on this. So that's why it is developed for use by the Node.js. It includes features like file system events, asynchronous DNS resolution, asynchronous file and file system operations, full-featured event loop, threading, and many more. Okay, so you don't need to learn all these things. I am just giving you the overview that C++ is behind the Node.js. Okay, so this is one of the most important dependency of Node.js, which is libuv library, which is written in C++. Okay, the next thing that we have some other dependencies of Node.js on which Node.js also depends. So the first one is the LLHTTP. So this is basically designed to make any synchronous calls or allocations. Next we have C-chars. C means the C language. So this is the library of C language. So these CRs are used for some asynchronous DNS requests. Next we have OpenSSL. So this basically is the implementation of many cryptographic functions. These are the functions on which the modern website security relies on. Okay, and last we have zlib, which is used for fast compression and decompression. So these are some of the dependencies that Node.js depends upon. And we have also learned that C++ is behind the Node.js that is supporting Node.js. But don't worry about that. We don't have to write any kind of C++ line in our coding. We write our code in JavaScript, in Node.js. Okay, so you don't need to care about that, what is going on behind the scenes in the C++. We have to write our code in JavaScript. Basically, it provides a layer of abstraction to us so that we can write our code in JavaScript. I hope that you understand. So this is the quick video in which I just want to show you that C++ is behind the Node.js and some dependencies of Node.js. So I hope that you understand. Again, we don't have to learn in depth about these things. We just have to take an overview of that. So I hope that you understand. So that's it for this video. If you feel any problem understanding anything in Node.js, you can definitely ask me a question. I am always here to help you. So I will see you in the next video. Welcome back to this course. So according to my experience, this is one of the most important video of this section, which are the callbacks. So in this video, we are going to focus that what actually are callbacks, and we will also understand the callbacks by the help of our coding example. Okay, so first of all, let's see what are callbacks. So callback is an asynchronous equivalent for a function. A callback function is called at the completion of a given task. Node makes heavy use of callbacks. Okay, so callback is just like a function that we use in JavaScript, but it is passed as an argument. Okay, so whenever we perform a task, when that task is completed, this callback function is automatically get executed, and Node.js uses callbacks heavily. Why? Because we know that Node.js run in a single thread. Okay, so we cannot block our code on a single task. Okay, so what we will do, we run that task in the background, and the Node.js moves on to the next task. Okay, and after that, when the previous task is completed in the background, then callback function is automatically called, and we can do anything what we want. Okay, so basically callback help us in preventing from the blocking of the code. Okay, so what are the examples of callback? First of all, we have a reading a file. and second one is web that use update features. Okay, so for example, we are updating some data on our website. Okay, when we click on update button, updating process takes a long time. Okay, so that updating process will move to the background of the application, and we can do other works. Okay, when that update will be completed, then through the help of the callback function, we will be notified that your update has been completed. In the same way, reading the file, we start reading the file and we move on to our next code. Okay, and after that reading of the file is completed, it will be notified to us that your file has been successfully read. Okay, so these are the example of the callbacks. Now this is just the definition. Now let's see with the help of a coding example that how callback help us in Node.js. Okay, so here first of all in my Visual Studio Code, I'm going to create a new file. In the new folder, it is BTS, that stands for behind the scenes. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file with the name callbacks.js. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to create a code that will not use the callbacks, because we want to see the difference between the using callbacks and not using the callbacks. Okay, so we are going to use the example of reading a file, which is easier for us to demonstrate right now. Okay, so first of all, you have to import a module called the fs file system to read files. Okay, so I simply type here let fs equals to require, and we're going to require the fs module. Okay, and after that we have to read a data from a text file. Okay, so simply type here let data equals to, and fs, I'm going to use a function called read file synchronous. Okay, and in that I will simply pass the name of that file that I want to read. So I simply type here example.txt. Okay, so we don't have any example.txt file in this directory, but we are going to create that shortly. Okay, so now simply I'm going to console.log the data.toString. I'm going to convert that data and printing on this console. Okay, and after that I simply type one more statement here, that console.log program ended. Okay, that's it. Save it, and now I'm going to create a new file here with the name example.txt, and I write some content here like welcome to Node.js Express MongoDB Bootcamp. Okay, simply save it. Okay, so first of all, I just import or require the fs module, which stands for file system, that help us to manage the files. Okay, and after that I have simply used the read file synchronous function to read this example.txt file and store that data in this data variable. Okay, and after that I want to show the data in form of string, so I simply type here data.toString and simply console.log the program ended message. Okay, so let's save it and run this code. Simply type here node callbacks.js and press enter. Okay, so you see welcome to Node.js Express MongoDB Bootcamp and program ended. Simple as that. So in this way we are not using the callback, we are reading our data synchronously. First of all, this line get execute, then this file, then this line get execute, then this, and then this. Okay, so now let's see how we can use the callbacks to improve the performance of our code. Okay, so I am simply going to comment out these two lines right now, and I simply type here fs dot read file function, and I simply pass here the first argument, which is the name of the file, that is example.txt. Okay, and now after that we have to type the callback function here, because we are going to use the callback this time, comma, I'm going to use the arrow function. First of all, I type here error and then the data. So these are the two parameters that I'm going to use. Error, if there is some error while opening or reading this file, then we can actually handle that error with this, and this is the data that we will get after this execution. Okay, and after that I'm going to write some lines in here. I simply type here first of all if error, then we are simply going to return console.log or console.error, whatever you want to use. Simply type here error, and otherwise I will simply console.log data.toString. Okay, that's it. And after that we have this program ended line. Okay, so first of all we require the module fs file system, then we use the callback system here. Okay, so simply I have used this fs.read file. First of all, in the first parameter I type the name of the file, which is example.txt, then I have passed the callback here. Okay, so first argument is the error. If there is some error while opening or reading this file, we will get this error right here. Okay, and if there is not error, then we get our data in this data variable that we can display on our console right now here. Okay, so this is the callback, this one. Okay, and after that we have a simple line, program ended. Let's save it and run this code. Simply type here node callbacks.js, press enter, and now you can see that we get program ended first, and then we get welcome to Node.js X% MongoDB Bootcamp. Why? Because this time our code is not running synchronously. Okay, so what happened here is just imported this module, which is fs, then it simply read the file, which is example.txt, and moves on to this line. Okay, so we executed this line, and once this reading file process is completed, the callback function is called, and we have simply get our data on the console. So this is the benefit of using the callback. Our program is not blocked at the center. You can see that while reading the file, the process is not blocked. We move on and read our next data or execute our next instructions, but our code is not blocked. Okay, so this is the major benefit of using the callbacks. This is just a tiny example, but when we use it on our projects, this is definitely going to help us, because we don't have to write the blocking code. We don't want to block our code. Okay, so as a developer, we always have to focus on writing a code that is non-blocking. Okay, so I hope that you understand what is the difference between using the callbacks and not using the callbacks. Anyhow, if you feel any problem in understanding anything about callbacks, definitely you can message me or ask a question. I am always here to help you. So that's it for this video. I will see you in the next video. Welcome back to this course. In our previous video, we have discussed about the callbacks, and now today in this video, we are going to start our new video in which we learn about the event loop, which is the heart of the Node.js. Okay, so you have to put your concentration on this video, because this is one of the most important lecture also in this section. Okay, so before getting into the event loop, there is a concept called thread that I want to discuss before getting into the event loop. So first of all, let's see what is a thread. A thread can be seen as a unit of operations that our CPU has to perform for us. So whenever we run a program, we create an instance of it, and associated with that event, we have something internal called threads. And also we know that Node.js is a single threaded language. Okay, so only one thread is created in this CPU for whole process. Okay, but in general, we can associate different threads with a single process or program. For example, you can see in the diagram, we have a process program. Okay, that may have number of threads like thread 1, thread 2, thread 3, and thread 4. Okay, so thread 1 is performing functions like perform addition. Thread 2 is performing like function like run for loop till 10. Then in thread 3, it may be responsible for reading a file, and in thread 4, it may be running a function that is calculate salary. So we can associate different threads with the process of the program. Okay, but in Node.js, we have only a single thread on which whole application is going to run. It doesn't matter you have 1 user or 1000 users. Only one thread will be created for it. In other languages like PHP, each time a new thread is created. Okay, so Node.js is a single threaded language. Now let's discuss about the event loop. So in a thread, something like event loop is generated. Okay, the role of this loop is to schedule which operations our only thread should be performing at a given point. In the simple words, event loop is a mechanism that takes callback functions that we have discussed in our previous video. So this is a mechanism that takes the callback and register them to be executed at some point in the future. Okay, so basically event loop takes all the callbacks of the program and register them, and whenever that process is completed, that callback is called automatically in the future. Okay, so this is the main concept of the event loop. Now you may got a question in your mind what actually an event is. In simple words, every action on a computer is called an event. I'll give you an example, like whenever a connection is made, that is an event. When a file is opened, that is an event. Now event loop automatically runs when we run our application. Okay, so whenever we block our thread, we are also going to block our event loop. Our event loop is also get blocked there. Okay, now let's discuss about the complete process of an event loop with the help of an example or a diagram. Okay, first of all, in the step 1, everything scheduled with set timeout or set interval will be executed here. Set timeout or set interval are the methods. I hope that you know about that. This is the most commonly used methods. So in the first step of this event loop, everything that is scheduled with this set timeout or set interval method will be executed. Okay, in the next step, which is the step 2, pending OS tasks are executed. Check for the callbacks that are ready to be called. Okay, in the step 2, basically it checks which operating system tasks are pending, and also it checks that which callbacks are ready to be called. Okay, in the step 3, it pauses the execution, wait for the new events to occur. So in step 4, it checks if function related to pending timers related to the set immediate function are ready to be called. Okay, so basically the Node.js set immediate function interacts with the event loop in a special way. Okay, so it basically checks if the function related to the pending timers related to the set immediate function are ready to be called, and in the final step it manages the close events. So this is the complete loop of an event loop. Okay, so these are the 5 steps that are involved in the event loop. I hope that you get an overview of the event loop, and this is the purpose of creating this video, just to give you an overview of the event loop. So I just summarized the event loop. So event loop runs automatically when we run our application. Okay, so when we block our code, we are also going to block the event loop. Event loop is automatically blocked when a code is blocked. In simple words, event loop is just a mechanism that takes the callback functions, register them to be executed at some point in the future. Simple as that. I hope that you understand. Anyhow, if you feel any problem in understanding anything about the event loop, you can definitely ask me a question. I am always here to help you. So that's it for this video. I will see you in the next video. Welcome back to this course. So in our previous video, we have discussed about the event loop, and today in this video, we will discuss about the threads and the thread pool. Okay, so without wasting our time, let's discuss it with the help of a diagram. So first of all, we have a program process running on our application. Okay, so this is basically, you can say that the Node.js process or program process. Okay, that runs when we run our application. In this program process or Node.js process, we have this box that is this single thread. Okay, so we know that Node.js application always run in a single thread. So in this Node.js process or program process, we have a single thread. Okay, so whenever we run our application, some steps are executed. The first step is that the program initializes. Okay, the next step is that it requires all the modules. For example, if we require the FS module, then the FS module will be required in the program. If we require the HTTP module, then the HTTP module will be required in the program. Okay, the next step is it register all the callbacks. Okay, all the callbacks are registered in the next process that we have written in that program, and after that it starts the event loop. That is the heart of the Node.js. That is the main thing in the thread. Okay, that basically runs when we run this application. Most of the work is done in this event loop. Event loop performs a bunch of tasks, but there are some heavy tasks. Okay, so if those tasks are performed in the event loop, that takes a lot of time. When it takes a lot of time, it is definitely going to block the code, and we don't want to do that because we know that Node.js is a non-blocking language. We don't have to block the code. So here something comes in that is called the thread pool. Thread pool is a separate pool of threads that basically contains 4 threads. Now whenever a heavy task comes in, the event loop put those tasks in that thread pool so that it does not block the execution or block the code of the application. Okay, so we have a thread pool that contains about 4 threads in it. Okay, so after that the heavy tasks are moved from event loop to the thread pool, and thread pool then will be responsible for that processing. Okay, the heavy tasks include like file systems, or you can say that the compression or decompression that takes a lot of time. Okay, so this happens in the thread pool. So this is the basic idea of thread and the thread pool. I repeat it once again. We have a program process or Node.js process in which we have a single thread in which our application runs. Some steps are performed. The first step is program initializes, then all the modules are required will be added in it. After that, it will register all the callbacks, then it starts the event loop. Okay, now we know that most of the work is done in the event loop. It is responsible for calling all the callbacks. Okay, so there are some heavy tasks. If we execute those tasks in the event loop, then our program will be blocked, our code will be blocked, and our event loop will also be blocked, and we don't want to do that. Okay, then what we will do, we have a separate thing that is called thread pool that contains additional 4 threads. We move those heavy tasks to the thread pool, and then after that, thread pool is responsible for that tasks. Those I have given you example. Those heavy tasks may be file systems or something called the compression or decompression. Okay, so this is the main idea of the thread and the thread pool. I hope that you understand. Anyhow, if you feel any problem understanding anything about thread or thread pool, you can definitely ask me a question. I am always here to help you. So that's it for this video. I will see you in the next video. Welcome back to this course. So this is the last video of this section in which we are going to cover about the event-driven architecture. Okay, so the concept is very simple. This architecture is pretty simple, and we will understand this architecture with the help of an coding example. Okay, so first of all, let's see what is the event-driven architecture. First of all, in Node.js we have some certain objects that are called the event emitters. Okay, so these basically emits the events as something special or something happens in our application. Okay, so it basically emits the events and that are listened by the event listeners. So event listeners are something that the developer write, that we are also going to write in this video. Okay, so event emitter objects emits the event, and the event listener listen that event, and after that it call the callbacks for that specific event listener. Okay, so this is the simple and very helpful architecture that we are going to use in this video. Okay, so I just repeat it once again. There are some objects in Node.js like event emitters that emits the events as something happens in our application, and next we have the event listeners that listens for that events that the event emitter emits. Okay, and after that we have callback functions that are called for that specific event listener. Simple as that. Now let's understand this concept or this architecture with the help of a coding example. So let's see it. So first of all, in the same folder which is the BTS behind the scenes, I'm going to create a new file with the name event driven architecture.js. Okay, so in this file, first of all, I'm going to require a module that is called the events. Okay, so simply I type here let events equals to require, and I simply require a module here that is events. Simple. Now before writing the event listener, okay, I have to write the event emitter. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to create a new event emitter here. So I simply type here event emitter. Don't worry about what I am writing. I will explain this each and everything in a minute. Okay, so simply equals to new events dot event emitter. Okay, so I have just created a new event emitter, and after that I have to basically fire the connection event. I want to simply type here event emitter dot emit the connection. Okay, so connection, and after that we have to listen for this event. Okay, so simply type here event emitter dot on the connection event. Simply call this callback function, that is console.log connection successful. Okay, simple. Okay, so I simply save it. Before explaining this program, let's run this once. So simply type here node event driven architecture.js and we get connection successful on our console. Okay, so now let's understand this code. First of all, we have this line. We are just requiring the events module in our file. Okay, after requiring that, we are creating a new event emitter because we have to emit an event. Okay, so I simply create a variable event emitter and create a new event emitter. Now after that, the first step, we know that the first step was to emit the event or fire the event. Okay, so in this case our event is this connection. Okay, so I simply type here event emitter.emit this event. I am simply emitting this event. Okay, and now we know that once we emit our event, we also have to listen for that event. So this is basically the code for the event listener that will listen for the event. Okay, so this first one is the event emitter.on is the event listener. Okay, this is the listener that will listen for an event. Okay, so for what event we have to listen? We have to listen for connection event. Okay, we are emitting here connection, we all have to listen for this connection event. Okay, and after this basically listener listens for this connection event, then we have to pass a callback here. Okay, and once we listen for this event, that is connection, we are going to basically call our callback function that will display connection successful. Okay, so let's copy this line and paste it again and then simply type here connections. Okay, I simply save it and run this code. You can see that I only get connection successful once. Okay, why? Because at first we are emitting the connection event and at the second time we are emitting the connections event. Okay, so this connection matches with this connection, this connections doesn't match with this connection. Okay, so this basically matches the event and I'll call the callback function for that. So this is the event driven architecture. I hope that you understand with the help of this example. Let me write some comments here. You type here creating an event emitter, and this one is just firing the event, or you can say that connection event. Okay, and this is the event handler, or you can say event listener. Okay, so I hope that you understand what we have done in this video. This is just the simple architecture, event driven architecture that we have used with the help of our coding example. Okay, so if you feel any problem in understanding anything about behind the scenes of Node.js or this event driven architecture, you can definitely contact me. You can definitely ask a question. I am always here to help you. Okay, so that's it for this video. I will see you in the next section.